No, we're not. Say hi.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing my phone backwards today to see if the picture quality is better. Which makes it very awkward for not seeing what's on.
Well, you can see on mine.
Yeah.
You're not going to see if they ask questions. Oh, I guess you will on there.
I will on here. Yeah, I probably just got notification that Wayne Henry's live now. Yay, Wayne. So what's going on, everyone? Cheers.
Hello.
Cheers.
Cheers. We're back to our roots today.
Me and Wayne.
Wayne and
Wayne.
to the two homies.
The two original.
Just for today.
Wine Wednesdayers.
Wine Wednesday. So, but
we'll put on a good episode for you because
we're gonna do our best.
We rock the house pretty hard.
I mean, we're pretty.
You and I, we're pretty fun.
Let's be real.
We really are.
We think a lot of ourselves, don't we?
Nothing wrong with that.
No, that's right.
Look at the camera quality is much better this way.
Oh, it is.
Do you ever watch my videos?
I wonder if I should do that.
Well, I think the problem is Samsung, not Apple. The forward-facing camera on the Samsung 7s is not good quality. And so, anywho.
So.
That's how that rolls.
Who knew?
I did. So I am telling you.
That's all right. Trying to see who's on here. I can't see.
So we've got, for your watching enjoyment,
how this all
very
began.
Appropriate for Wine Wednesday. Cheers.
Again.
We should, every time we say Wine Wednesday, we have to cheers.
We have to drink.
Drink.
Playing drinking games now during Wine Wednesday. What do you think about that?
How about that?
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I took a poll. If any of you voted, which I know you didn't, because I know who voted.
Ooh,
and
shade.
Oh, shade at all the people on Facebook. No, I don't know if you can vote an Instagram poll on Facebook. I feel like I have had people vote on it before, but anyway. So I left it up to you all.
Oh, so when you post your story on Instagram, you're doing it automatically as a story on Facebook?
Yeah, it shares. You can do that.
See, I thought you did it in both places.
No.
I didn't realize it.
No, it comes over, so I can show you how to do that.
Okay.
If you want.
She is the social media guru.
I'm a social media queen of 43 homes.
She is the digital.
Which is pretty scary.
She's the digital mayor.
I try. And
We're
then
going to
I'm
promote her to president, digital president.
president of 43 homes.
Yeah, digital president.
Digital president.
Yes. Sounds much more sophisticated than mayor.
It does, a little bit better. You just said Wine Wednesday. Drink! Thanks, Nick!
Do you have your glass? Are you drinking too?
What did I do? Wait, what were we talking about just now? Oh, so I did a poll on Instagram, and I left it up to everybody if they wanted a home buying topic or a home selling topic, and home selling won. So
that
today,
is what you get.
we're talking about home selling.
So if you don't like the topic, blame those people.
Too bad, because that's what we're talking about. For some reason, my video has stalled. I wonder if I need to look at the...
Did it in IRL?
Huh?
Nope. It's not stalled over here.
Oh, just on Facebook? Oh, well.
Maybe close out of that and go back. There you go.
I'll just refresh. So, we were trying to come up with a home selling topic to talk about.
And there's so many, we couldn't come up with one.
There's a lot. So, we just kind of felt maybe this would be our usual Seinfeld episode, talking about all sorts of home selling things, right? And I think one of the...
Hi, Carl. He
Carl?
says Carl says hello.
Hi, Carl. Come on down for Wine Wednesday.
You got time.
Drink.
We have big glasses today. Oh, she's trying to get So what's one of the first things we want to talk about home selling?
Well, I think that a common, a lot of times, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? The first thing that comes when someone is thinking about selling a home, what would be the first concern, question? I mean, what do people...
Two of the ones that I get are, why should I use you?
Yeah.
And what should I do to my home, before I list it? So,
yeah.
So those, I mean, people don't use those words, why should I use you? But I've had a couple instances
had
where
people
people
say
are
that
using and not specifically us, but why should you use a realtor? Because there is a misnomer, I think, that because the market's so hot that they can just do it all themselves.
Which, quite honestly, people can, because the market is so crazy. But
you can.
There is a lot of concern. I don't know what people think we do. I just, like, we had to go to school for these licenses. We have to do CE classes for these licenses. There are laws we have to follow to keep our licenses. There's rules.
And some of them apply to you if you do it yourself.
Certainly. And, it's not like we do nothing. And I think people think that the money charged is way more than what it actually is.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Right. Well, I think that they think that it's not worth the value that they get.
Sure.
And honestly, a good realtor is worth their money.
I think so.
And I think even a lot of people, I think, because we're in such a strong seller's market, think that the only thing that we do is help get you the house in contract, which is a misnomer.
Yeah.
And B, that kind of a field of dreams thing. If you build it and you put it out there yourself, FSBO, that they will come. The buyers will come. And I think in this market, it's almost more important to have a seller's agent because there are thousands of search sites. And yes, you can go put your house on Zillow, right? You can go put it on Zillow, list it for sale by owner.
Sure.
And anybody searching on Zillow, might find it. So, but what about the other, sites? There's a ton of them, and a lot of them get fed from us when we put it in the MLS. It automatically goes out on all of those sites.
Right.
And so that's important because in this market, you need to get a lot of interest in your house, and you want, multiple offers are common. So having, a fraction of the market that sees your house for sale versus everybody that could possibly see it just lessens your chance that you're going to get into this bidding, situation. So
and FYI, part of the commission, I pay a lot of money out to do this business. This is a business. I have my own
And not a
business.
free
Wayne has
business.
his own business. And part of the fees that I pay are to be a part of the MLS. So
and it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. And there's a lot that goes into cost-wise of being a real estate agent. And
we also pay to market your home. When it comes time and we take your listing, we're paying for things that market that home. Photos, advertisements, flyers, all of these things that you see coming into, a cost that we're taking out of.
Ads on Facebook cost money. Ads anywhere cost money.
And so we're not pocketing all of that. And,
no, certainly not.
And agents have to pay brokers and all of that stuff. So it's like, doesn't end up being as much, I think, as what people think.
No, definitely. The percentage of what you actually keep from.
Right. And we're not complaining about that. It's just
the
expectation.
Yeah, I think that people think that whole commission goes to one person, which it doesn't. It gets split between two, buyer and seller broker.
Right.
And then, again, there's taxes that come out of there. There's business expenses. I pay for all of the advertising I do for my clients. I pay for the professional photography, which I'm happy to do. That's
I view it
why
as
you
just
would
part of
hire
it.
me. Yeah,
part of it.
Some agents don't do that.
Right.
I do. Wayne does.
And then beyond that, once it's in contract, the transaction management, right? This is a whole litany of things that has to happen once the contract comes into play and all the way through. And there's a lot of negotiation that goes on. And the remedy, they want this fixed or they want that fixed. So we kind of know what are reasonable expectations. And
well, I think too, with the contract, just even before getting into all that,
the
negotiation before, but also, there's a lot that people who aren't in the industry don't pay attention to. The way something's worded can drastically affect
absolutely
how a term might be in the contract, or to even understand what the contract's talking about, what someone sends you when they send you an offer.
And what documents you legally have to provide to potential buyers.
Right.
Do you know what those are?
What about timelines?
You don't
How
have
are you
access
tracking
to them
timelines? Are
necessarily.
you even aware that there are timelines you have to follow to stay in contract? And
Did
to
you
be
read
following
the
law?
contract that you received? So
Probably not.
And I find most people don't. As people will say to me, "I trust you." Look, this isn't a trust thing. You're the one entering the contract. I want to make sure you know what you're getting into.
Right,
It's not that I'm gonna throw something in there or someone threw something in there to trick you. And I appreciate your trust, but I
Yes.
want you to know what stays, and it's all listed in the contract. What
Right.
stays, what goes. There are things in there according to the contract you pay, like the owner's title policy. If you don't read that, or at least have us walk you through it,
Yeah, you may not know what you're getting into.
you're going to get into surprises, right? So,
Tony Milano says hi.
Hi, Tony.
And Brent Saunders, we've got Brent
We
Saunders.
got Brent.
Fun fact.
Be
He's
thinking of your
back.
fun fact.
Woo. All right, so it says the average FSBO home sold for $190,000, and the average realtor represented home sell for $250,000.
Wow.
So
That's
that's a
a
considerable
giant
difference.
That is a giant difference.
And
I
I
would
can
not have
see
expected such a difference.
Because
A difference, yes. But,
yeah, that's huge.
that's a lot. That's like 30%. More
Yeah.
than 30%.
Yeah, it really is.
Um,
But again, it comes from visibility. And do you have an agent that? I don't know. Do you, as a regular person, not of the real estate background, know where to advertise, how to advertise? How are you getting people to see your home?
how do you
Just sticking that
target
sign in the yard?
And beyond that, so say you decide you're going to hold an open house, right? And then you put signs in the yard, you go to buy those things at Home Depot, you can buy that say open house. The buyers really don't want to talk to the seller. It's awkward, right? I think that the intermediary part of this is underestimated.
Right.
Because it becomes emotional on both sides. You're selling a home that you've made emotional connections with. Someone's buying something because they feel this is the one. And when things start to get contentious, who do you have
To mediate.
to mediate
To not be
and
personal.
to not be so vested?
What the biggest
Yeah.
thing comes to mind is inspection period.
Yeah.
People are telling you something's wrong with your house.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that. So Arnold said everyone should read the contract. We need to keep that top of mind.
Yes.
100%.
Honda.
Hello.
Yes. Arnold, ding, 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 gets the price for today.
He does. He does.
And I see it all the time, and we've said it 100 times in this, but yeah. I still get the people every time. You send them in .loop, the contract, and within 30 seconds, you're like, that's a 13-page document.
Bing! Like the signatures are coming, and it's just like, oh no.
And I will make an attempt at that point to look, okay, we need to talk through some of this before we just send this on, because you didn't read it. I know you didn't. So, anyways, that's part of our job too, is making sure you understand.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part, because I think what people don't understand is that there's a lot of laws and rules that we have to follow as agents. There's ethics, there's fair housing,
Dates, the dates.
The dates are the biggest thing, and there is a
and
new
in this
contract.
And in this market, especially if you're on, I guess on the buyer side, the dates are even more important, because there's a lot of times backup contracts. You miss a date and give a seller an out, and they have received a better offer since yours. As a buyer, you should read it too.
You think?
And stay on top of the dates, and your realtor is going to help you with that. But again, you're accountable for those dates.
Yes. Yeah. Those dates are important because.
Yeah. And then and then listing your house. The other question we get is, what should I do?
As to get it ready to list.
Right.
Yeah.
And we, as agents, do this all the time, right? We see the good, the bad, the ugly of listings, right? So, and we're with buyers who are giving you candid feedback. People don't hold back when you're not there. They're
Sometimes
saying
they're
what's
mean.
on their mind. Yeah. I got some mean feedback today about my listing, and I was not happy, but, maybe I need to take it to heart and, listen to what they say. So, but in any case, we know the items that people are looking for.
Right. Well,
and that are going to make a big difference.
It's an impartial
Right.
part of it. I mean, you know, I have no skin in the game, so to say. I mean, my feelings aren't going to get hurt by someone telling me that.
It makes it hard for me to tell you what they said.
Right. I mean, you know, and the biggest thing that comes to mind is odors. If your home has an odor, like a pet odor.
That is the number one.
I mean, that dog smell. How many?
And you become like the Febreze commercial, nose blind.
Nose blind. That's exactly what it is. So you do need some. I mean, you are not going to know as the homeowner that your house stinks. You're just not. You're used to it.
And I'm a dog owner, so I'm sure mine did probably.
Well, I know mine did, and I'm the first one to say I had 230-pound dogs. I know the house smelled, and to this day, and they've been gone a couple years now, but I still like every once in a while that carpet.
Right.
But
and so yeah, I mean, smells are huge because that's the first thing when you open that door. When you've already the negative has started, right?
Yeah.
And then they're looking. You know, then they start looking for the bad stuff. Like, so, you know, but
it's all a matter of how much money can I get off the list price with this house? You know, like, oh, it smells bad.
Price?
$5,000.
If you priced it because these things.
Yeah, that's one thing.
Ooh, that was a jinx. We have to do that.
Wine Wednesday. Cheers!
Wednesday. But. You know, so, and beyond smells, I mean, we can go through a litany of other things, but that's just it. Another reason why you bring an impartial person.
Like the little dings in the wall or on the trim or whatever. You know, there's just stuff that you are, as the homeowner, not going to be paying attention to anymore. So if you're listing it yourself, you may not, you know, you're just not going to see it. You're going to think your house is in great condition. There's days where I think my house is fantastic, and then there's other days I'm the impartial person, and I'm like, man.
Yeah, I
gotta repaint.
Well, it's like I always think of that Home Depot. There was a Home Depot commercial where the woman wakes up like in the middle of the night and they had like a water spot on the ceiling where something had leaked, and then there was another man saw like they start seeing all of these things, and the whole point of the commercial was today is the day. You know, go to Home Depot. We can help. Like, you know, so
I need Home
when
Depot.
you're listing. Yesterday was the day,
right?
You know, before you list.
Yeah, before you list. Bill's watching. He says, "Hey, hey." So.
What did one gay horse say to the other gay horse?
Hey. That's a good guess, huh? Funny.
Anyway.
Wait, I just got distracted by watching my own video, watching what they're doing in the background. Oh,
pretty.
Looks familiar.
Bubblies. Ooh,
champs. We need some champs.
Yeah, now we want to watch. I can't see.
That's what happens when it's all distracting like that.
Sorry.
Bill says LOL. He appreciates our joke. So I don't know what else. Like what?
Home selling. I mean, so what are the other questions we get? We get all kinds of questions as home sellers.
When you put me under pressure.
Well, one of the things I think is what stays and what goes. You know, and I've had this come up a couple of times with buyers and sellers recently.
Like, do appliances stay?
Now, most of that, if you read your contract, is spelled out in there.
Yeah, so read the contract.
But some of the like I had a client the other day, had one of the nice fancy locks, like you ended with a combo.
Oh, yeah.
And she has a home business and has people with access to those codes.
Oh.
And so, long story short, I said something about the key and leaving for the new buyer, and she said, well, we're taking that code and we're putting the old deadbolt back on. So the whole thing is, the house should be like it was when they viewed it and you went into contract. No matter how small the item is, and while that technically it's kind of a small item, I mean, you probably buy those for like $150.
No.
Still, the doorknob thing is $40, and the combo one's, you know, $150, $200. So they're not getting like kind. So you have to kind of gauge what's.
And if there's something that you do want to keep,
put like kind back, like, you know, put another combo one on.
Take it off before you sell, or. Yes. Make sure that it's in the MLS, and that you also
and in your
included
contract.
in your contract, right?
That contract becomes the final word.
I had represented buyers on a home where the marketing for the house was gourmet kitchen, and beautiful appliances.
Uh-oh.
And yeah, and when they closed on the home, the refrigerator was taken. So the and to be fair, it was not in the MLS. It was not included in the interior amenities. Should have caught that. I mean, sometimes, but anyway, it was there that they were not going to be leaving it. But I read an article just recently that even if it is listed in the interior amenities, if the buyer does not include it in the contract, that the seller can take those items.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because that contract is the be-all, end-all.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you have agreed to.
Right.
And that's why as agents, I'll tell people all the time, to be safe.
Yeah.
If there's any question, whether it stays or goes, either side,
Yeah.
we need to include it in the contract or in a counteroffer. So as a seller, in that instance, if you or the agent had written into the interior amenities or what stays, the refrigerator, and then the seller says no, and your counteroffer, a line item that says the refrigerator doesn't convey or doesn't, leave with the property, so or stay with the property. So, that contract is the be-all, end-all, as I understand it. And of course, an attorney, if someone's out there, weigh in. But
I mean, ultimately, if something isn't there when you move into the house that you thought was going to be, or should have been per the contract, it ultimately ends up consulting an attorney. But
yeah. Well, what are some of the other items that are
drapes.
kind of common? Drapes.
Drapes are a big question. Do
And
those
again,
stay?
in the contract it says.
You know what else I always find interesting?
The rods on the answer that question.
These things behind us.
That's a good question. Okay, so
So what am I pointing to back there, people?
what is it? TV.
TVs that
So
are attached
the
to
rods
the
and the
walls.
drapes, the rods, and this is kind of the same long lines with the TV.
Mhm.
The rods stay and the curtains go unless the buyer wrote them into their purchase
Right.
contract. Same with the TV. TV can go, but that bracket behind there has to stay. And that's actually a change from a recent contract. Before, you could take that bracket down, but you had to put the wall back the way it was.
Okay,
Because
right.
you would expect that that's all gone. You patch the wall and the wall looks as if nothing was ever there. This changed with the most recent contract, as I understand it.
So why I'm laughing is because
I thought I was burger or something.
because wine said or wine. I keep calling you the last 2 weeks on Wednesdays. I've called you wine.
Wayne.
Wine Henry. But we said one
It's
Wednesday, so
interchangeable. Oh, jeez.
Ah.
We're gonna need another bottle. We have one chili.
Oh darn. We've got 3 chili. Currently.
Today's gonna get interesting.
It's lit up in here.
Lit app.
What were we even talking? So why I was laughing was because you said the wall needed to be right. So I even forget whose transaction this was, but again, it was the buy side, and we did state that the wall needed to be. I know exactly who this was. Ding ding.
Well, certain things you can never forget, right?
Well, so when we did the final walkthrough, there were these holes in the wall where something had been, right? That was supposed to be repaired. We knew what we meant, put the drywall, but the seller said, we bought the house new, this is how it was. Like the holes were there for the wiring to go through. You're like, really?
Really? So I had an agent recently tell me we were discussing a remedy request, which is this kind of maybe lead into another topic. And how remedy repairs are completed. Typically, you need to provide some sort of proof, unless it's obvious, right? I mean, electrical things that I guess you and I, if we looked at it, maybe you would know.
Right.
But a lot of times, it's like circuit breakers in the box. We're not electricians. We need some sort of proof that you did it. So there was an issue, I think, with insulation in it listing, and
like not enough.
Yes.
Not the right time.
Or no, but it was up against. It was a fire. The insulation was a fire hazard. Something about the way it was done. Well, instead of doing it the right way to remove the fire hazard, they just completely removed the insulation, so it didn't have any at that point. And they're like, because the request was written as such, and again, this goes back to how things are worded.
Right.
And maybe this guy, had or girl, I don't remember, a woman, I don't remember if it was a man or woman. Maybe they, by the way it was written, were correct in their assumption on how they could do it. But I think it said something along the lines, to remove fire hazard. They were to remove the, he's like, I removed the fire hazard.
Oh, wow.
And the agent was like,
so
the agent's like, oh yeah, this isn't closing.
That goes back to the point of the way things are worded. Like, you may know what you mean.
And interpreted. It's worded and interpreted.
Completely different. So that's, again, you probably, if you're selling on your own, something to be mindful of.
Yeah.
You know what you mean.
Yeah. And I think they knew what they mean. I think those two people have two different ideas.
Remove the fire hazard.
Yes.
Certainly did.
I don't think that's where they were going, but whatever. To each their own. But I mean, and those things too. When you get to the remedy request and all of that stuff, we see these things all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like we kind of know. It's like I had a client once. I think we kind of got into this before a little bit and had a little bit of a disagreement. I had a client that wanted them to recaulk the shower. I'm like, okay, like it's a $4 thing of caulk.
Yeah.
And we had 10 other items that we were asking for. I said, okay, can we drop this one off the list? I'm like, because you can go buy from Lowe's or Home Depot.
I'll go caulk it for you.
For $4, we're getting nitpicky, at this point. And I think that's my pet peeve with remedy stuff is, if I'm representing the seller, buyers who are just, and it's happening less because they realize they're not in the power position.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, ask for legit stuff. People
I'm
writing in the contracts that they won't ask unless it's over $1 amount.
Yeah, I once have. That's been the latest.
Right.
They're going to take the home as
which
is.
is a double-edged sword in my mind.
Can be.
Right.
I had one. I was on the listing side, and the agent sent over the remedy saying items 1 through 65 on the inspection. Literally every single item on the inspection.
I had
report.
one of those, and boy,
1
that
through
transaction
65
was bad.
so lazy that he couldn't even write out.
But
I
guess
have
if
to go
your
in
client
and
says,
read.
I want all of this fixed,
Yeah.
I'm not going in and typing all of it.
You wouldn't?
No, I'm not typing out 65. I'm lazy like that. I'm not typing out 65 items.
To be quite
it told
honest,
you what was wrong. I want all of them fixed.
I don't even think that he read the items 1 through 65 because some of them were there's a paint chip.
I would tell my client, look, we're not doing this. Let's go through this and be realistic, right?
1 through 65.
A lot of times those things are cosmetic, and it's not even something you're entitled to have fixed according to what the contract states. It's supposed to be a defect, not cosmetic.
Something actually broken.
Right. Not functioning as designed.
Broken.
And look, Annie, when I had a client along the same lines, she's like, I've got a 50-page report that tells me all this stuff is wrong. I want it all fixed. And I said,
It's not really what it says.
I was like, it's the first day this house was on the market. And, look, I'll ask for what you want, but I'm telling you this is an unreasonable request.
They're not going to do it, yeah.
They're not going to do it. Well, we pushed and we pushed. And ultimately, again, like I said, I'll do whatever you ask me. And in the end, I had to ask for a lot more than what I thought was reasonable or what they would do.
Mm-hmm.
But it got to the point where they got tired with it. They were exhausted by that process. And so, I don't know why the volume all of a sudden came on. But the sellers got exhausted with it because we kept going back and forth, and then they finally were like, just forget it. We'll do all of it. But that got contentious too, and this was a lane lesson learned. In lieu of some of the items, they were to leave lawn equipment for this woman. And they said, look, there's $1,500 or $200,000 worth of lawn equipment in the garage, and she's moving into a condo that she will no longer need.
Did you just say $200,000 worth?
$1,500 or $200,000. I hope that's right. That's what I intended to say. Wine might be talking, I don't know. as Dan Dolan would say, you shut up.
Where's Dan?
So,
Let's call
but
Dan.
they were supposed to leave it. Well, the day of closing
Yeah.
comes. You know, we went through the walkthrough,
Mm-hmm.
and then the day of closing, you know, like 2 days before, you know, and there was still a lot of stuff in the house, you know, at that point. But because they hadn't done, I think they had possession or something after, so like they hadn't removed everything. So, but we get to closing and she gets possession and goes to the house and all the lawn equipment is gone. And so we had no written agreement. The agent and I had exchanged text messages that she was going to leave it. And I did have, you know, some, but there was no written agreement. So then we got into arbitration, you know, and all of this stuff. And at that point, the seller, I think, was still mad about the way the whole thing went. And the agent actually said to me, she was so mad with the whole thing, she probably threw it all in the trash. Really? Yeah, so that it can get ugly. And again, if you don't have an agent, who's going to be in the middle?
Who's going to know? Yeah, you have to do all that on your own. That's just not worth it to me.
You're going to end up with fist blows in the driveway if some agents weren't in between them. And you don't want to be on cops.
Or do you? I would someday. I'm going to get.
Why do those people
tased.
never have shirts on?
I don't know.
Have you ever noticed that?
Yes.
They never have a shirt on. Why?
Put your clothes on. I just always say, you know, just because it's socially acceptable for a man to not wear a shirt doesn't mean that you shouldn't wear a shirt.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And that is every episode of Cops that I've ever seen.
Yeah, for sure. Never sure. Sometimes they don't have pants on either. Like what?
Yeah, things are happening on that show that you're like, whoa.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So, all right, should we wrap it up?
I think we should. I think we've killed it.
I think we have.
Yeah.
Again.
And we'll be back again this time next week. So if you come up with other things and questions,
maybe we'll run another
poll.
What should we run a poll about?
Well,
what should be in the background? All right, starting tomorrow, the poll will be.
And we'll all post it.
What do you want in the background?
Yes.
For Wine Wednesday.
And please don't put food because at 3 o'clock I'm already hungry.
Yeah, the pizza video that we had the last time was.
Oh my god, we were all drooling for food.
Oh, I want pizza. Let's have pizza.
Okay.
Cheat day.
I'm fine with that. You go to Penn? No, we can't go to Penn's. Then we're mad at them.
We're so mad at Penn's. And they don't open until 4 anyway.
Oh, that's true.
So
anyways.
All right, everyone.
Happy Wine Wednesday.
Drink.
See you same time next place. Or next week. Same time, same place next week. Bye.
On Wine Wednesday. Drink. One more.
Ooh,
One more.
ooh. Cheers. I broke the glass.
Yeah, don't break that glass, Big Daddy.
I like the noise.
Finish.